It's always a pleasure to have Senator John Cornyn, the senior senator from the great state of Texas, on the line with me. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. Good to be with you.
It's always a pleasure. Boy, 6 days. Can you believe after all of this, we've got 6 days, and then we can all take a breath, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, hopefully.
Who would have ever predicted? This is going to be a squeaker of an election, and who knows what is going to happen. It looks like the polls are closing between Trump and Clinton, and a lot of my friends and colleagues in the Senate looks like they're more competitive in the Senate races around the country. So you're not only going to have the White House decided, but the majority in the Senate, and that's going to have a big impact on things going forward, depending on who wins the presidency.
Well, it's where I wanted to go first. What do you think about the Senate? Are you guys going to hold on to it or no?
Well, I'm feeling good about it today. It looks, if you just look at the averages of public polling, you probably say that we do maintain the majority in the Senate.
Right.
We have 54 senators now, and some of the projections I've seen said if the election were held today, we have 51. But I think, we don't yet know the impact of the latest revelations with regard to the Clinton investigations, plural, that is, both in the email, both in the pay-to-play allegations with the foundation,
right,
and associated investigations. So I just think this is going to be a squeaker to the very end.
It's Senator John Cornyn, Republican from the great state of Texas. Let's talk about that. Does the FBI Director, James Comey, I think you and I talked about this after July, and he laid out a great case as to why she should be indicted, or at least a grand jury should be convened, and then at the end said, I don't see any charges here. Does he do the right thing, and is the timing suspect when he last week sent a letter to members of Congress that said, we found some substantial stuff here. We don't know if it will help or hurt the case, but there's so much of it. We wanted to make you aware. Does he do the right thing?
I think he had a duty to do what he did, having publicly declared her innocent of any criminal conduct last July.
Yeah.
I question his conclusion, but in the absence of a grand jury, like you said, it's not going anywhere. And really, this is the nub of it, Joe, for me, because Comey's authority is limited to investigations. It takes the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, who serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States, to ask for convening of a grand jury. But that's exactly what I think we need to do here to unravel this mess, is for Loretta Lynch to appoint a special counsel, somebody with some measure of independence, who can then present the facts to the grand jury and let the chips fall where they may. Because I think at risk here is not just the presidency of the United States, but it is literally the public's confidence in the administration of even-handed justice, where it looks like the system is rigged for the powerful and those who are in a position to exploit it.
Well, what can you guys in the Senate and those in the House do when you've got a Department of Justice head, the Attorney General herself, pleading the Fifth Amendment? You've got certain levels of either staffers or people who worked on her server who were very close to Hillary Clinton and the campaign getting prosper deals, or they're getting immunity deals. I mean, there's something going on here, and we, the public who pay for all of the government, we have the right to know. So what can you in Congress do for us to get to some sort of an end in this investigation? It seems like it's been going on forever.
Well, it does, and it smells to high heaven.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is the limits of congressional power, and I don't mean to concede that we don't have any power here, but with the executive branch, who's the president, who is the attorney general, the prosecutorial authority, and the investigatory authority in the FBI, it makes a huge difference, which is another reason why this election on November 8th is of such monumental importance going forward. But Congress can conduct additional investigations, expose a wrongdoing, and then there are both political and legal remedies that can follow from that. But unfortunately, when you have Eric Holder and now Loretta Lynch, some of the most political attorneys general in recent memory, it is beyond frustrating.
Senator John Cornyn, Republican, the great state of Texas. Senator, I'm guessing that you know better than I do, being a former judge. How does the whole pardon thing work? I've got people telling me that Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon before Nixon had been charged with anything. If you can pardon somebody preemptively, you can basically say this person can never do any wrong. Could President Obama pardon Hillary Clinton today on things she hasn't been charged with?
I believe he could. I believe he could. Of course, I don't think he will, certainly before the election. And after the election, I think it would be a dramatic departure from historical norms. But I guess it's possible.
Can she pardon herself should she win?
No, I don't know of any precedent for that. I don't know of any precedent for that.
You know how my brain works, John. I just have to know these things. I don't know.
That would be, well, that would, given the strange environment, all the developments that are stranger than fiction here, I guess it's a fair question.
You and I have talked many, many times, including at the Chamber of Commerce, where we sat there across from each other for a good long conversation with people. You're with Trump. You want Trump to win. Any apprehension about that? Or are you still on that train? And how do you? And again, going into next Tuesday. I mean, up until right now, things suddenly have turned around and it's looking pretty good. Are you still there?
Well, it's looking better, and I would say he'll still need some momentum going forward, but he certainly closed the race. I voted today in Austin, Texas, early voting for Trump, and I'm pretty clear-eyed, I think, about the reasons why. The Supreme Court, the judiciary, who the cabinet appointees are going to be that are going to head the Department of Justice, the regulatory agencies that have put a stranglehold on business and economic growth in the country under the Obama administration. Unless we want more of that on steroids because of the influence now of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders on Hillary Clinton, then I think Trump's our only alternative.
Well, Obamacare is a big deal. Obamacare, we've seen the premiums go up 60 to 70% already, and the government, this administration itself, has come out and said, oh, by the way, next year, 25% more for everybody across the board. This thing has to be out of here, right?
No question. And this is something that people may not have noticed given the everything else that was going on, but Congress actually using the budget reconciliation process is kind of an obscure technical process, was actually able to repeal Obamacare and put it on the president's desk. We did that with 52 votes in the Senate and the majority in the House. Of course, the president vetoed it. We know he would.
Right.
We knew he would. But what it demonstrated is the political will in the House and the Senate to repeal Obamacare so that we can replace it, given a president who would work with us.
Trump does great. And again, Senator John Cornyn, we always appreciate the time. Trump does great when he talks about the issues. When he talks about Obamacare, when he talks about illegal immigration, when he talks about the economy, when he talks about jobs, when he says, I'm going to repeal and replace Obamacare immediately, he does very, very well for that. He also has been on a bent about voter fraud. John, do you think there's voter fraud on a scale that it should be investigated and looked at? I mean, just from today out of Broward County, Florida, there's another allegation that somebody was opening, ballots before they're allowed to.
Absolutely. I think it's something we need to remain vigilant about. I think everybody should be concerned about the integrity of the voting process and the integrity of their individual ballot. And this idea that it never happens and it's just a figment of someone's imagination, and somebody's just being a conspiracy theorist by saying that there could be voter fraud, I think is just to deny the undeniable. So yes, I think we have to remain vigilant and make sure that everybody's vote counts.
President Obama, while campaigning for Hillary Clinton in North Carolina, said that the day Donald Trump takes office, he's going to take away your Medicare, going to take away your Medicaid, and he probably will uproot Michelle's garden. I'm not making that up. John, he said this. I mean, is this the tactic we're using now to get a Hillary Clinton win?
I didn't hear about the Michelle's garden part. That's what I was laughing at. But yeah, this is sort of typical scare tactics. But, it's shocking to me, really, Joe, getting back to what we were saying earlier. You have a president of the United States campaigning for somebody who's the subject of a criminal investigation by his own appointees to the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Right.
It is shocking. And I think that's one reason why Trump is finding some resonance around the country because they feel like things are just so totally out of whack that we need a reset, and we're not going to get that with Hillary Clinton.
Okay, two more quick ones. Should Clinton win, even if she should lose, you get a changeover in the administration or a changeover in whoever the personnel are in the Congress. Is there an investigation, a congressional investigation, going to continue Or if she wins, it's going to go away because she keeps Loretta Lynch as the attorney general. Or if she loses, then you guys can really sink your teeth in.
Well, I think if she, either way, I think the investigations are going to continue. Of course, the House will, in all likelihood, maintain their majority, and they have their oversight committees,
right.
Jason Chaffetz and others who have done a good job in terms of oversight, Trey Gowdy, people like that. And then in the Senate, if the Senate, we retain the Senate majority, which I'm hopeful of, then we should also work with our House colleagues to continue our investigations and oversight hearings. And so there are things we can do. And, of course, even in extreme cases, there are other things that Congress can do. They would have to be an extraordinary set of circumstances, as you can imagine. But, yes, there are things we can do, particularly if we maintain the majority. And I can assure you we will stay on this.
Senator John Cornyn, great state of Texas. Last question. You're a big champion for the VA. You have been for a long time. It's still broken. Many of the people at the top still haven't had their heads roll. We can't find why people were lying. I mean, people die waiting to go and see somebody at the VA. Then we check the books, and the VA says, well, we saw him 3 different times, which was a lie. They're just cooking the books. What can you do should a Trump presidency happen? Should you get it away from the Democrats who, in my opinion, aren't pro-military? I just don't believe they are. What can you do in the House and Senate, in the Senate specifically, to get the VA on track and get our veterans the care they deserve?
Well, there's 2 things we can do, and there's very important legislation, which I'm hopeful we can move on after the election, that Johnny Isakson of Georgia, the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, and John McCain and others have worked on diligently, and I've supported, which would do 2 things. One, which would give the leadership at the VA the authority to fire people who don't do what they're supposed to do. In other words, some accountability rather than this just reassignment or paying bonuses or just let them, continue to earn a paycheck while not producing. And the second is the expansion of this Veterans Choice option, which gives veterans the opportunity to see doctors in the private and hospital providers in the private sector as an alternative to the established VA system, if that's their choice.
Just makes sense.
Certainly won't be required to do it, but it gives them more options and access to better quality care.
It just makes sense, John. We always appreciate the time. We'll see what happens in 6 days' time, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. It's Senator John Cornyn, Republican from the great state of Texas. Senator, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Take care.